starting out investing is really scary for most people. Everyone encourages them to do it, but they never do. I have one investor, and he eventually, over time, picked up 32 properties. He's telling everyone in his family what to do, how to do it, and guess what? No one does it.
Right.
So if you don't know, if you're scared to death, this is the place. This is Mary Jo, and I'm Sean Higgins at Cross Country Mortgage. And Sean's going to give us the best advice he ever got from a multi-millionaire. I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Well, I would just to retrack, it was probably 10 to 11 years ago when I was trying to build my mortgage business, and I had a mentor of mine who had asked, if you were me, or if you go back and tell yourself 25 years ago, what was the best advice? And he said, get around successful people and talk to successful people, right? Which in theory seems awesome. I'm like, but no one has that S above their head when they're walking around, so you don't really know what defines success, right? And so
some of the most successful people wear t-shirts and blue jeans.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
And that was the hardest part for me initially. So Greg was his name, great guy, I still talk to him, he's an amazing dude. But basically he said, let me help you with that, Sean. He's like, I'm gonna set you up with some meetings with some of these guys that I know. And I was like, that sounds fantastic.
That's a gift.
That's a gift. Now my thing to him was like, they're not gonna wanna take a meeting with me. He's like, yeah, they will. I'm sure there's people asking him all the time for advice or to have conversations. He's like, no, you'd be surprised they're not. Most people are intimidated and they don't even, reach out. So I will set these up and I want you to talk to them. And that started over a 6-month span where I met with a lot of these guys, and it was crazy how similar a lot of them were. A very, what they would say, KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, when it came to their business.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
They also were very upfront about being careful about not making your business be bigger than your personal life when it came to taking care of your family and things like that.
Sure.
Because a lot of times there's, hard work and sacrifice sometimes can do that, right? But the guys, all of them pretty much were very similar in their belief that they thought that the three main things that had helped them be successful in regards to investing were, one, real estate. Pretty much all of them had some type of real estate portfolio, whether that was single family, multi-unit apartments, ground, commercial. All of them had some type of real estate. The second thing they invested in small businesses.
Okay.
And when I'd asked them to define, what type of small businesses, are you talking about? They're like, friends, family that that are passionate about the business. Get involved with people like that, because they'll be the ones that can get through the dark days. So investing in small business and people are passionate. And the third one, for them when it came to advice on what to invest in, is something else that you're passionate about, right? So if your passion is not your number one form of income, then switch it. Don't do something just for the money,
Because you'll hate it.
Because you'll hate it, and you'll get burnt out, and you'll be miserable, and that'll lead you down the path that we talked about, where if you're chasing dollars instead of, what you're passionate about, it's never gonna end up good. So that's always stuck with me. So in times when we get to these times, Mary Jo, of what real estate's going on, they're like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's not the real estate I'm passionate about. It's the relationships that you get to make with not only the clients, but your referral partners and things like that. So
selling people properties it transforms their life.
Yeah, you're always gonna be part
of
it.
They go from one thing to another. I always have, when little boys are in an apartment and I'm showing them vacant houses, they go, they've got to get it out somewhere in an apartment. They can't. Once the family's in, they have a different life.
Yeah.
People are always changing. They're not buying just a house, they're buying a new lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting about that too. I don't know if you know this, but Arnold Schwarzenegger, he put all the money that he made from his first movies into real estate.
Really? I did not know that.
Yes. Goldie Hawn was the queen of LA because she had so much. She owned LA. She had so much real estate.
Yeah.
Well, they do. That is, and Diane Keaton. I don't know if you know, she's a flipper. She's a house flipper. She does kitchens, magnificent kitchens, and all of that. They keep it on the quiet, but people that we think are just glamorous and they lead this fun life, they're serious business people.
Right. Yeah, and the thing about real estate is I think a lot of times, just like anything else, people feel that they don't know enough to get involved with it, or they feel it's this ridiculously complicated, business. And, you know, there's definitely complications to it. There's definitely advantage to understanding a very niche type deal. But I tell people it's just like anything else. If you're interested in housing, it'll work. If you're not and you're chasing it because you hear people make a bunch of money on it, it won't. You know, it really won't.
You know, the people that tell me that so-and-so is making so much money doing something, half the time it's either not thought out, it's really temporary, or they're doing something wrong and it's going to crash and burn, you know, in a short time.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're passionate about it, you research enough in the beginning. Warren Buffett says risk is not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So when you take the time and energy to figure something out, there's way less risk.
And I will say with real estate, a lot of times getting that education up front, don't educate yourself to death though, right? At the end of the day,
it's paralyzing.
You have to play.
Right.
You have to get on the field and you have to get hit and you have to figure out kind of, you know, what is your niche. So you got to try a lot of things. Like I say, we got to kiss a lot of frogs sometimes to figure out which part of it. But just because the first dabble you have in real estate is not what fits for you initially doesn't mean real estate as a whole is not something you can do.
Everybody makes mistakes.
100%, all day long.
Or things happen that nobody could have anticipated. Yeah. I don't think there's an investor I've ever met that didn't make either a mistake or something happened that they could never have anticipated or thought of.
No, and just another thing that came from talking to these very successful business owners is another thing that to this day that I think about no matter who I'm meeting with or who I'm talking to or whoever's in the room. They made it blatantly clear. They said, Sean, listen, I don't care if you're talking to the owner of Cargill. I don't care if you're talking to the CEO of Target. Every single one of those men or women is dealing with a huge struggle in their business. Every one of them.
Every day.
Every day, every one of them. None of them is going through a day without struggle. So when you're talking to them and you're asking questions, think of that. That should make it much more easier to talk to them and ask them how they deal with things. And it really has, because I basically say the same things that, you know, Greg taught me to say. It's like, what would you do differently? And it's just, business is a never perfected process.
Actually, it's like a CEO is like a circus. He's a ringmaster.
Yeah. Yep.
And all the clowns are going wacko on him.
Right.
So it's controlling the clowns every day.
Yeah.
So it's really, question. What did they say, or what did your millionaire say about stocks and bonds?
They all were invested in stocks and bonds in some type of portfolio. One that was really heavy, but that was kind of more his bread and butter. He came from the trading side for commodities, so that was kind of one of his passions. But when it came to these different avenues like I talked about with the real estate and the small businesses and what you're passionate about, what they also said too is they were really big on coaching, huge on coaching. So
having a coach.
So a financial advisor, if they're not in stocks or insurance or whatever that is, they pay this expert to do it for them so they can spend the time on the stuff they're passionate about. Coaching was a huge piece. So they didn't really get specific besides that one on stocks. Their thing is invest in yourself, pay other people that are experts to do it, and that ROI will always be there.
Right, especially with real estate. I had a coach one time. She said, stocks and bonds can go up and down. They can even disappear. Real estate can go up and down, but it's always there, and that's why we call it real.
No, that's a great point. It's a great point. You can touch and feel it. You can't a stock, that's for sure.
That's right. Can go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sean.
You bet.
And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and come again.